been a lot of fun, and the Christmas tournament, it's a story in and of itself, and we're bringing all 26 games live to you once again here on Channel 21, online at cmosportzone.com and yhctv.com. And let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket for this year's tournament if you haven't seen it already. And this is how the tournament looks in the bracket. You've got on the very top, the top-seeded Bloomfield Wildcats in their very own tournament will take on the 16th-seeded Richland Rebels. Also, right there in the neighboring bracket, the 8th-seeded Dexter Bearcats will take on the 9th-seeded Twin Rivers Royals. 4th-seeded Doniphan versus 13th-seeded Bernie. 5th-seeded Malden versus 12th-seeded Portageville. 2nd-seeded Kennett versus 15th-seeded Holcomb. 7th-seeded Hayti versus 10th-seeded East Prairie. 3rd-seeded South Pemiscot will take on 4th-seeded Van Buren, or 14th-seeded Van Buren. 6th-seeded Saxony Lutheran will take on 11th-seeded Puxico, and that's your bracket for this year. And quite a few changes this year, guys. You see there right off the top, Bloomfield with the number one seed. They've started climbing that bracket for the last few years, and number one in their very own tournament. You know it's got to be big for the Bloomfield team, and not only that, the community to get behind them in their very own Christmas tournament.
First time in 50 years, I think they've been the one seed.
Wow.
Since 1965, I think was the last time that they were the one seed.
Wow, that's quite something there. But they're number one seed in their own tournament. But boy, they're going to have a tough road to go. You look right down their neighboring brackets there, the 8th-seeded Dexter Bearcats and 9th-seeded Twin Rivers Royals. That's going to be quite a game there. That's probably going to be the game of the night. That'll be the nightcap there at the first game, and that's probably going to be the game to watch there in that first round.
Well, Twin Rivers is one of those teams you never want to play.
Right.
Whether they're having a good year, bad year, or whatever, you never want to play them. I saw them play Monday night, and they handle the ball well. They really hit the boards. And one of the reasons you never want to play them is because they're always good fundamentally.
Yes, they
and
are.
This team is really no different. Dexter, as we've talked about, always has a tough schedule to start, but then they usually start playing well during the tournament. So I think that's going to be a really good game, and I think whoever comes out of that game is going to give Bloomfield a good game.
You're right. That's exactly
And
right.
this thing about Bloomfield, they're capable of winning this tournament. But that second night, if they happen to take on the Dexter Bearcats, this class, Bloomfield's really good class they've got now, has never beaten Dexter head-to-head with that same class. Coming up, junior high, junior varsity, and now at the varsity. They haven't beat them head-to-head, so that's going to be probably that hill to get over, that hump to get over with the Dexter Bearcats. They're potentially in that quarterfinal.
Yeah, you got to, they're going to have to know they can beat them,
Right.
and right now they don't. They know they have the capabilities of beating them because they certainly have the team to beat them, but they have to know they can.
Right.
Sure. So potentially some big games there. There on the first and second day. Dexter and Twin Rivers, that'll be the game of the night there with the nightcap. That'll be a good one to watch. And heading in potentially that quarterfinal, Bloomfield and Dexter, that's going to be a great game to watch there in that quarterfinal. Big Stoddard County rivals, and a hump to get over there for the Bloomfield Wildcats. And take a look at that bracket. Let's take a look down the way there on the top half of that bracket. We've got the 5th seed of Malden Green Wave with the Portageville. That's a Boot Hill Conference matchup there. We'll say Malden will advance there, potentially take on Doniphan there in that neighboring bracket there. Doniphan and Malden potentially there. Doniphan, we don't see much of them at all unless it's in this Christmas tournament, and they're always a factor to deal with just because they're not a common opponent for a lot of these teams.
That's true. And like you say, normally Doniphan would bring a team, a competitive team into this tournament, and apparently the coaches and all thought they're well enough to give them a 4 seed.
They've been playing pretty well this year.
They
They've kind of exceeded expectations, but they've got a couple of guys that are scoring. Like Mo is one of them. I can't think of the other kid's name, but Doniphan's been playing very well. I think they got beat by New Madrid recently, but
Not bad, was it?
it wasn't all that bad. But Doniphan's started out the year playing pretty well, which of course why they got the 4 seed, and Malden, as we've discussed, is playing better.
Right.
And I think they're just starting to gel as a team. So that 4 and 5 game in the quarterfinals should be really good.
I think you're exactly right. Both of them advance. That'll be another that could go either way.
Yeah. And Malden's certainly capable of making some noise there, and potentially a match up there with either Bloomfield or Dexter potentially, or even Twin Rivers there in that semifinal game. So there's going to be some interesting matchups to look forward to there in the top half of that bracket. And let's take a look at the bottom half there. We've got Kennett and Holcomb. Kennett's been the number 1 seed going back probably a handful of years. They've been the dominant team the past handful of years, but taking the 2nd seed this year. So, Kennett doesn't necessarily have that number 1, bullseye on them this year. So, but if you're Kennett, hey, you went through this CMO conference, you beat Jackson, and you come away with that 2nd seed. Maybe teams aren't really, really consider you kind of the runaway favorite anymore coming into this year's tournament. So maybe a little chip on their shoulder to come in and have something, plenty to play for to kind of turn some heads.
Well, Kennett shouldn't be the team with the target on them. I think Bloomfield should be the team with the target on them. Kennett, going into the seeding was 1-5. Of course, as you alluded to, the one victory was a really good victory against Jackson, who's the top seed at the Cape tournament. Kennett's problem this year is that they haven't been able to put full games together. They were ahead of West Memphis at halftime. They were ahead of Charleston at halftime. They were ahead of Poplar Bluff at halftime, and ended up losing all those games by double digits. Like Liberty Tech, they were ahead at halftime and lost by 10. So a lot of the losses they've had, they were, first half they played great and were ahead in those games. And that maybe up until last night when they beat Scott City by 30, they really hadn't put a full game together. But they've got, they're going to play 8 to 10 people, cause a lot of turnovers, and they deserve the 2 seed. I think they're well seeded there. And then I guess they get in the second round, they'd get the winner of Hayti, East Prairie. East Prairie's not playing too bad right now.
No, they're not. Yeah. And, they having a nice season, and that game could go either way. 7 seed Hayti and 10 East Prairie could go. Yeah. It's according to, Hayti can come in and win this thing.
Oh, yeah.
They've got that kind of athletes.
Yeah, East Prairie's been pretty impressive this year.
5-1, 6-1.
Yeah, they lost to New Matter in a close one, and they got an impressive victory over Portageville.
They beat Portageville by a lot.
Yeah.
So I think
I thought East Prairie would have been. I was expecting East Prairie to be a top 8 seed. So them being a 10 seed, pretty dangerous for Hayti there, and we'll see. But I think East Prairie's might be just seeded a little low for themselves.
Well, and Hayti, as you just alluded to, and as we've talked about throughout the last 5 or 6 years,
exactly.
They could be, one night the greatest team in the world, the next night they something less. I was going to say something about one of the teams I used to call bad, but I won't talk. Even though they're not in the tournament anymore, I won't say anything about it.
Yeah, but certainly capable.
They won last night at Clarkton.
Yeah, they did.
They scored 90 points.
We won't call no names.
We won't call any names.
Leave it to these guys.
But I've always liked to watch Hayti play.
Oh yeah,
because they're a fun team to play, and they're always athletic, and Dustin Ferguson I think is doing an excellent job down there. And if they come in, put about 3 games together, anything can happen because they've got the athletes to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe East Prairie may be coming over with a little bit of chip on their shoulders, saying we're not getting any respect from these people. And they may come in and they may make some believers out of some people.
We'll talk a little bit about who's going to be the dark horse this year. We'll hold that for just a few minutes. But moving on, let's go further down the bracket here. We got 3rd seeded South Pemiscot and 14th seeded Van Buren, 6th seeded Saxony Lutheran, and 11th seeded Puxico. As we've said earlier on, South Pemiscot going to be a force to be reckoned with. You would expect them to move on and probably take on Saxony Lutheran. But I tell you, this Saxony Lutheran Puxico game, that could be one of your first upsets. Saxony Lutheran's undefeated up there. A new coach in Kevin Williams this year, off to a great start. But Puxico, they're a pretty fair team this year. But I really don't know what to expect out of Saxony this year. And they're one of those teams not many teams run into around here. They're coming down from Fruitland up there. So we'll see about
I
that.
think they beat Perryville last night, or
Yeah.
of any schools
that's
of
right.
any size they beat Perryville, but I couldn't tell you how good Perryville is.
Yeah. Typically not a strong program
Strict-
there.
Yeah, typically not, and really don't know what to think about Saxony.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which new coach Kevin Williams, he had very good teams down in Crothersville there in the early 2000s. He's back
They
in the
were
mix here.
interesting.
Yeah, interesting, certainly interesting. And Kevin Williams back in the mix here. So I don't know. He's
Yeah,
been out.
maybe
He's been out of the game here in Southeast Missouri for quite some time, but he's back here in the mix now, and looking forward to seeing what he's got in these Crusaders at Saxon Lutheran.
Exactly. And Puxico, we watched him play at Bernie. They've got a pretty nice little team, and they got a big guy in the middle, and he may not score a lot. He does a lot of things well. He sure takes up a lot of space, and actually a big, strong kid, and it's the kind of kid you'd like to have on your team because he don't back down from too much.
Yeah,
And so that could be interesting.
sure.